President Muhammadu Buhari has advised the incoming administration of Bola Tinubu to continue to respect workers' rights as part of its core development agenda. Buhari stated this in a speech at this year's May Day celebration, which was delivered by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa. Also, labor unions in Nigeria demanding more pay for workers in the country. Top officials of the Nigerian Labour Congress and Trade Union Congress made the commitment during the Workers' Day celebration in Abuja. The union leaders said the plight of Nigerian workers is worsening due to policy inconsistencies by governments. Arise correspondent Punariman Benjamin reports.
For decades, Nigerian workers have joined other countries around the globe to mark Workers' Day on May 1st. This year is not any different, as workers converge in Abuja in large numbers to commemorate the day. The occasion won't be complete without workers stating their demands, despite that President Muhammadu Buhari's second term ends in less than 4 weeks. Union leaders insist that his administration can still improve the welfare of workers before its exit date on May 29th. They lament poor wages, the dwindling economic fortunes of the country, bad healthcare services, and growing unemployment in the country as areas that demand urgent attention. They also want electoral and political reforms. The president of the Nigerian Labour Congress is specifically asking the election petition tribunals handling complaints from the 2023 general elections to expedite action on the cases before them by ensuring that justice is served to all parties.
Poor wages exclude, increased decent work deficit alienates, abuse of workplace rights and privileges dishonors, unpaid salaries strips workers of their humanity, violation of rules, engagements defies, harassment and intimidation of workers humiliates, and refusal to grant access to social infrastructure for workers reduces. Poor nutrition, increasing number of working poor, and restricted access to decent housing, health, education combined to dehumanize and subjugate the rights of Nigerian workers. Subjugating workers' rights subjugates the entire society.
All we want is a country where we will build a country where Nigerians will be proud to say that they are Nigerians. A country where people will not be struggling to go out. A country where all of us workers will say they are working and they are happy. We can't get the economy right, we can't get anything right until the workers are working and are being looked after, their welfare and everything, and they are productive.
Despite the numerous challenges highlighted by the labor unions, the Nigerian government says it has done more to improve the lives of workers across the country.
We have gone through the throes of negotiation and collective bargaining mechanisms, utilizing the instrument of social dialogue, and like in any other human relationship, sometimes we agree to agree or disagree to agree, but always progressively seeking a consensus for the better society and economic growth.
For some workers, the Buhari administration has done well, while others disagree.
The issue of judiciary is well known to the public on the issue of financial autonomy and independence of judiciary. Although recently there is say that a constitutional amendment has granted the autonomy of judiciary. For me, yet to be done, because it's not the issue of the law, it's the issue of the compliance.
If you look at the current inflation in the market, yes, our salary, there is nothing to write home about. When you go to the market, yeah, the current minimum wage is 30,000 naira. Yeah, 50 kg bag of rice, yes, it's more than the minimum wage.
He has actually done well because right now there's a little 40% of promise he made that reflected on the pay of last month. So I believe with that, I'm not going to fault him, and I'm not going to say that he's not doing well. Absolutely, he has tried, but there are more room for improvement.
Before the privatization, we were already at 5,000 megawatts in production. Till today, we've not surpassed that. We have been dwindling from 5,000 backwards 3,000.
As President Muhammadu Buhari marks his last May Day in office today, President-elect Bola Tinubu will be expected to implement some of the key policies of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration that will help improve the lives of Nigerian workers. Punaraman Benjamin, Arise News.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful report there by Punarima Benjamin. You're taking this. Maybe
One more time, happy Workers' Day to all Nigerian workforce. We have, according to the World Bank, in 2021, unfortunately, we don't have a recent statistics on our on the labor force, on the workforce in Nigeria. But according to the World Bank, we had over 70 million in the workforce in Nigeria, whether from young to the older people, employed, underemployed. Labor force was about 70,620,041 in total. Therefore, you can understand the significance of the numbers of workers in Nigeria. And dare I say, against all odds or despite all circumstances. I'd like to go back to the point of the lady that was, the two people or so who were just interviewed in the video that we just watched, in terms of the welfare of workers. Because Workers' Day annually is celebrated to recognize and honor the effort of the labor force, the workforce in a country. It's done across different countries. Some countries do it in September, like Canada, for instance, but many countries around the world celebrate it on the 1st of May or the first Monday in the month of May. So, if you're going to recognize or celebrate a set of people, beyond the rhetorics of just the march past that we're used to annually, it is actually looking into the issues that the workforce faces in Nigeria. Are workers in Nigeria better off than they were last year, than they were 4 years ago when the second term of this administration came into power, 8 years ago? Have the welfare or the rights of workers improved over the years? These are things that on Workers' Day should present an opportunity for us to review as a nation. Because it's not just about saying we honor you, you contribute to our workforce, as the head of service said, of the civil service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemi said that workers play an invaluable role in the nation. It's beyond those words. If people are valuable, then you must demonstrate by action how valuable they are. The workers' wage, let's look at that for an instance. The Minimum Wage Act of 2019 was the last time the wage was reviewed, and this was at 30,000 naira. Since then, inflation has steadily increased from 11% to about 20-something% as at the last figure. Food inflation has increased, and the minimum wage remains 30,000, except for federal workers who recently had a 40% review on their salaries. This is not good enough for a nation like Nigeria. Hence, for a number of workers, unfortunately, there was nothing to celebrate yesterday. It was just an opportunity for them to, yes, hear the good words from the different governors, but when they reflect on how well they have fared, it is not anything to write home about. When we had the Minister of Labour yesterday, Senator Chris Ngige with us, we asked some pertinent questions around the welfare of workers. One of such was that under this administration, we have seen strikes up to 8 months, 9 months with ASU. We have seen the doctors go on strike. We have seen lamentations by workers. But, he said, they've tried to better the lot of Nigerians. They're reviewing the Nigerian labor laws. It's not about what they've done. It's that it is not enough for the Nigerian workers. So beyond celebrating, I believe that the 1st of May should be an opportunity for advocacy to better the lot of the Nigerian worker, to ensure that they can go home at the end of the month and what they are taking home is enough to sustain not just themselves, but their family members as well, to check out their health care and provisions for health care in terms of welfare, to check out their pensions, that having served meritoriously through the years, they are able to have something at the end of the day, that there's dignity in labor, that we restore the dignity in labor in Nigeria. So yes, happy International Workers' Day, but beyond the rhetorics, can we seize this as an opportunity to better the lot of the Nigerian worker?
Well, ahead of the May Day celebrations yesterday, the organized labor, the various unions, Nigeria Labour Congress, Bengasan, Trade Union Congress, and the other various organizations put out statements, all saying more or less the same thing, that life in Nigeria amounts to torture, hardship, difficulties for the average Nigerian worker, and that the government has an obligation to respect the rights of workers and act accordingly, in line also with international standards and conditions as spelled out in the International Labour Organization Convention, to which Nigeria is a signatory. So the event was yesterday. And of course, after all the going to and fro about the use of the Eagle Square at the Federal Capital Territory, NLC was finally given the opportunity to use that Eagle Square. So against that background, it's understandable that, the Nigerian workers went to that event at the FCT, with misgivings, with, concerns about the attitude of government towards the rights and the plight of workers. Now, but of course, on Labor Day, government officials also make statements. So yesterday, there was a lot of, presentation by government officials with, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, assuring workers that this administration, the Buhari administration, has done its best to promote the interest of workers, to ensure the dignity of labor, to provide opportunities for them, and encourage productivity. Now, the key thing that the president said, as reported by Boss Mustafa, was that he was enjoining the incoming administration to respect workers' rights and to provide opportunities for workers to thrive. The president-elect also sent a statement in which he pledged partnership with the Nigerian Labour Union. Number 3, Mr. Peter Obi of the Labour Party also spoke, in which he was talking about a Nigeria where justice will reign and where there will be equity and true respect for workers. Okay, across the states, the governors also said a lot of things. In Edo State, Governor Obaseki was urging workers to take more interest in the future of Nigeria and not restrict themselves to a position whereby every burden that is ahead will be borne only by workers, but by all Nigerians, because he was painting an economic picture of Nigeria's immediate future. So the government people struck all the positive notes. But for me, what is even more important is the position of Labour. Labour didn't sound too happy. Joe Ajero, the president of the NLC, in his speech, made certain specific demands. 1, that Nigeria should stop borrowing. He said, as far as Labour is concerned, that debt obligation should stop increasing. 2, he said the $800 million that Nigeria has collected or is planning to collect for subsidy palliative, that Nigeria should not collect that $800. Now, he also said that the organized labor is going to engage state governments and private sector, organizations going forward to insist on an end to the dehumanization of workers in Nigeria. Then, talking about the states, he specifically singled out Imo State government, which he accused of, sabotaging workers in Imo State, and that the Nigerian Labour Congress has taken a decision to report the Imo State government to the ILO, the International Labour Organization. In other words, the whole point of this is that, yes, workers are very important. After all, we are all workers at the end of the day. Senator Chris Ngige on this program yesterday made that clear, that after all, he's also a worker. He collects a salary at the end of the month. So ensuring that workers, get their best due and that they are respected is another way of saying that the Nigerian citizen is prioritized, that the citizen is put at the center of the process. And it's not enough for the president-elect to say, oh, I will partner with Labour. They say the taste of the pudding is in the eating. There will be no doubt that the organized Labour in Nigeria will still make a lot of demands, will still insist on certain principles. Should Nigeria print more money? Should Nigeria remove subsidy? Should Nigeria, take further loans? These are issues that, the incoming administration will have to deal with. But we'll see how that plays out. But certainly, workers are important. We all are important. And it's the responsibility of government to make sure that those who work get their wages. They not only get their wages, they get better wages, and they are given, a good environment in which they can flourish.
Right. Happy Workers' Day to every worker out there, including myself. How did Workers' Day come about? The American Labor Union, American Labor Federation, in 1886 had a big dispute, industrial dispute, that led to what is called the Haymarket Affair, where workers were protesting and they were bombed in Chicago. 1st of May was used to commemorate that day in 1886. So it has an origin of historical struggle, even today. Yesterday, Workers' Day, celebrated in over 80 countries in the world, was bank holiday in England yesterday. But the plight of the workers everywhere in the world has been cornerstone and center stage. We could go to Paris, where they've been protests about increase in working age. And there were many protests yesterday. We could go to every part of the world. But let's nucleate it to Nigeria. The problem with Nigeria is that we have a leadership over the years that do not even respect the plight of workers. Unemployment has increased tremendously. Today we are going close to 40% unemployment rate. But at some point in this country, unemployment was about 3%. 8 years ago, unemployment was less than 12%. We have gone seriously out of touch. You know why? Because the economic indices have destroyed the prospect of workers in this country. In the 80s, during Shagari, the Nigerian Labour Congress fought for minimum wage that was finally benchmarked a little over 150 naira, which was $150 then. But when you check the minimum wage of 30,000 naira, is it up to $150 now? But the minimum wage of an average Nigerian worker was over 150 naira in the 80s, over 40 years ago. So the economic degradation have washed away the value of our money. Hence the conversation around living wage, not even minimum wage any longer, because you can't cut it. As of 2019, there was a calculation done that the average living wage of a single Nigerian will be well over 43 to 50,000 naira a month. So today, the living wage is even more than that, because between 2019 and now, inflation has increased to over 20%. So that's why when Mr. Ngige was saying yesterday that they've done a lot for doctors, what do they need again? I'm not sure Mr. Ngige understands what inflation is doing to people's income. That's why when Joe Ajaero was speaking, and I hope I'm allowed to speak, when Joe Ajaero was speaking about federal government borrowing more money, he was just saying, please do not put us in a more precarious situation, because the economic indices are already eating into the prospect of workers in the first place. The truth has to be told. There is a need for a living wage that, if you calculate today, will be nothing less than over 100,000 naira or 200,000 naira for families. In a country where most families spend over 60% of their income because food inflation is high. So anything the government does now is a far cry to what the workers really will need. And that's why they're seeking other options. The doctors that are leaving Nigeria, it's not that they don't like Nigeria. It's because it's not making sense. Inflation is eating everything, and the workers' prospects are dwindled. But on top of this, what do our leaders do? Corruption still runs amok in the country. No level of accountability. We've not been able to stem the tide of inflation. Our forex is a mess. But all of this drowns the prospect of the Nigerian worker. So I'm happy when the president-elect talked about living wage, but we would like to see what he does as regards living wage, where the money will come from. Because even this 30,000 we all tout as minimum wage, it is just for 720,000 workers that work in the federal parastatal that are captured in eyepiece. So what's the way forward for the Nigerian worker? Happy May Day.